All right, y'all, welcome to the Lawrence Souffrant podcast, sponsored by Irv Lee Productions. He makes me look great. And as always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe so you can be notified of future content. So, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm a big Joe Budden podcast fan. Shout out to the whole squad. Y'all know what it is, man. I watch their podcast regularly. I'm even a patroni. You know what I'm saying? You heard? Right? Give my $10 or whatever it is a month. And there was a conversation that they had in episode 885, and I waited a while to discuss this because, you know, as y'all know, they're in the 900s now, but I wanted to really process how I want to frame this message. And so anyway, check this clip out, and this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the streets is done. Somebody say it.
You just did?
Well, somebody else say it. Co-sign it. Yo, the streets are done, man.
The rules of it is, the streets ain't done. It just changed.
Tell me more.
It looks different. Streets are still the streets. I think a lot of people are just doing crimes differently, and and we're getting older.
Who are the new? That's right. You're right. We are getting older, so that's why. Who are the new success stories from the streets?
Good question.
Like, and you're a great person to ask. You run around and you have these conversations. So it's like, do you ever hear any and just be like, yo, I'm into that?
No.
Well, you support the point.
I just think it's more information being gathered now. Like I was telling Mark earlier, a lot of people be so hyper focused on the streets, and then once they get outside of the streets or they get into some other rooms and they realize how small that world really is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them rules and stuff that only apply to the streets, once people escape the streets, realize it don't.
Would y'all say Pop Smoke would have been the last person that came from the streets that was
I don't call Pop Smoke a success story.
Really?
Yeah. He can't.
He died at 22.
But he was before.
And I don't know how old he was.
He was on the way.
Rest in peace. Okay.
He was on the way. I do think had Pop Smoke not
Wait,
been
hold
killed,
on. Wait. Go ahead. You don't think Pop Smoke was successful?
Pop Smoke is one of my favorite rappers.
I know what I'm saying.
One of my favorite rappers to come out of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody I think would have totally dominated had his life not been.
He was 20.
Exactly, he was 20. It's tough for me to say success story from the streets.
Got you.
The streets ended you at 20. That's something to cry about to me.
It is. You're right.
Like that's not. I can't. When I say success story, I'm talking about give me the. Well, we're talking about the new people. So give me somebody that's 40.
Let's go back.
40 and up.
All right, y'all. So, I mean, I would suggest that y'all watch, if not the whole podcast, it's a long podcast, at least the whole part of that conversation. You know, I didn't want to put the whole thing on because that would have taken up a lot of time. And they're not paying me. No disrespect, you know what I mean? No disrespect, Brother Budden. But let me start here. Let me be responsible and start here. By no means am I endorsing, promoting, glorifying illegal activity, murder, or any of these things that go on the streets. Let me just get that out the way. That's not the point of this conversation. And please don't be inspired to do street stuff after watching this podcast, okay? That's not what I'm saying. That's not my goal. That's not the point. What I have I guess is a personal pet peeve of mine is when we try to rewrite history or when we talk about certain things that are present now and we come up with reasons or ideas as to why they exist when we know why they exist, right? We still have people that are old enough to tell us, or we have documentation and all that, and it's like, for whatever reason, we get amnesia, or when people reach a certain level of success, and I'm not talking about the podcast now. This is no shot at the podcast. I'm just talking in general, right? We reach a certain level of success where we graduate out of certain environments, and then we act like we don't know why these environments exist. You know, what's the reason? What's the purpose? And we start to judge people who are still in particular spaces because like I said, we forget that one, we were there, and because we're so removed from being there, we forget why it exists in the first place. And so when it comes to the streets, I want to be as fair, as balanced, and as clear as I possibly can. So like always, if you got real questions, leave it in the comment section. Shout out to the trolls though. I see y'all. Y'all make this fun. Shout out to y'all. I like y'all. But all seriousness, I do want to have some serious conversation here as it pertains to the streets. Let me start by saying nobody chooses the streets. And what I mean by that is even those who are living like halfway decent lives and they choose the streets, there's still something that they're looking for that they believe the streets can offer. But when I say nobody chooses the streets, what I'm saying is there'll be no need for street life if we didn't live in a society that creates the conditions for poverty, okay? Poverty is a mindset. I do agree with that. But poverty is also a social construct. In order for certain people to remain rich, they have to create conditions that promote poverty. And the way that they create these conditions to promote poverty is that they designate a group of people and they try to trap them into a particular class. Okay, we're dealing with classism. You need a lower class to have an upper class. Now that should make sense by itself, because if we all doing good, then there's no separation. But the lower class scenarios are not by accident. I'll give you a real basic example, right? McDonald's is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like the revenue that they bring in is bananas. They really can afford to pay their workers more than minimum wage. They can afford it. They could pay them a livable wage and still be rich. Like they can do that. But they're not going to do that because they only want certain type of workers to work at McDonald's. They're looking for those who are desperate. As a matter of fact, in our common vernacular, if we going through some hard times, we'll say, look, man, I'll go get a job at McDonald's. Like it becomes the place to go to where you can get nothing else. And they're okay with that. But of course, that's just the cashiers, right? Once you start getting up the corporate ladder, yeah, some of these people are getting paid for real. But that's a construct. They have the means, but they're choosing to maintain a low class intentionally. So when it comes to the streets, we're talking about desperate people who are struggling to survive. And street culture, particularly gang culture, is a response to the system that is designed to keep them down. When gangs started to arise in this country in all of its forms, but I'm going to focus on black people, okay? That's what I'm focusing on. When gangs started to arise, it was a direct response to the police brutality, to the lack of opportunities, the lack of education, and essentially, these brothers and sisters needed to survive. And in order for them to survive, they had to create a subculture that we now call gang culture. And so in the beginning, when the police would pull up and try to terrorize the community, it was the gangs that will pop up and say, nah, not on this block, like it ain't going down. There would be a resistance to the domestic terrorism of the police structure that empowered gangs to do what they do. Now, once the government introduced crack, that's when things started to change. Gangs started to focus more on money than protecting their community. But I can't even get mad at them because remember the context. We're dealing with desperate people, okay? We're not dealing with people that have a million opportunities. We're dealing with people that really don't know how they're going to make ends meet. And so I get it, the money that came through crack and even the pleasure. There's so many people that use crack because it was better than drinking beer. The experience, the high was better than getting drunk, was higher than weed. So it was like, yo, give me this crack, give me this heroin, right? Give me these substances that would give me some level of pleasure because my life is messed up. That's the context that we're dealing with here. All of street life is not good, but I want to talk specifically about the no snitching first. Let me just tackle that because I think people are forgetting the context. So if you look at every black revolutionary movement that happened in this country, every single one of them got defeated because of traitors, because of sellouts, because of infiltration, because people would come in and they would give information that would dismantle the whole system of the revolution. Every single one. Pick one. It don't matter. That's what happened for the most part. The whole idea of no snitching was to prevent the dismantling of the movement. No snitching was not supposed to be about protecting criminal activity for the sake of protecting criminal activity. No, that's not how it worked out. It really went like this. If I had to defend my family from a particular threat, which involved me having to take a life, and there was an understanding that the current justice system would not see my activity as self-defense because I'm a black man, there's a target on my back, they're going to charge me with murder and try to throw me away for life when what I did was necessary and noble. Then there was an understanding that the community would honor my noble act, though it might be illegal. They would honor the necessity of said act and not put me in a predicament where I'll be locked up for the rest of my life. That was no snitching. It was, okay, yeah, you did that, but we're not gonna let the system, we're not gonna let the cops know that you did that because what you did was necessary. Now, is that the case in all situations? No. But it's the same thing with certain drug activities. If I sold you drugs because you wanted to get high, I didn't coerce you, I didn't pressure you, I didn't do anything. You found out I had it, it was supply and demand, and you get caught with said drugs on you, you are not going to tell on me because I was helping you. I was supplying your demand. So no, there's no snitching. Where you get the drugs from? I just found them, right? You wasn't going to say nothing. But somewhere along the lines, because desperate people are in fact desperate, it was hard to maintain the integrity. And if I'm going to be completely honest, opportunities started opening up for us, and we just weren't taking those opportunities because we couldn't even fathom that they existed for us. Like, there are more opportunities for us to go to school. There's more opportunities for us to get a trade, which includes going to school, right? There's more opportunities for us to start businesses. I mean, even being an influencer of some sort, more opportunities for that. I mean, even when it comes to so-called sex work, or at least, because some people put, selling nudes different from sex work. But whatever, you're using your body to get paid. There's more opportunities for that now, legitimate opportunities, where you don't really need at mass, I should say, because there's still people messed up out there. So I don't want to be disrespectful to those people who are getting it by any means. In other words, we have so many opportunities now that, yes, there's no need for the amount of violence that we're seeing in the streets today. In fact, when I was in the streets, we used to talk about not color banging, right? Like, we're not going to beef with you just because you're part of an opposite set or a different set, even at that. And my homies, y'all know what it was. If y'all happen to see this, you knew how we got down, right? But nowadays, there's so much tension because of so much murder and so much of rewriting history, even where this person did that person wrong or that person did this person wrong, and we can't come to an agreement on how to squash this like men. So we lead with violence. I think all that is wrong, right? I really do. At the same time, if you think the systems that were designed to keep us poor are no longer here, you are naive. You are just straight up, you are mistaken. There are still systems in place to keep us poor, and as long as these systems exist, the street rules still apply. Now, if you are fortunate enough to get out the streets. I applaud you. In fact, that's all of our goals, is to get out the streets. That was my goal, right? That's all of our goals, to get out the street. But don't get out the streets and then disrespect the culture that helped you survive long enough to get out. Don't do that. Do not do that. That is a slap in the face when, had it not been for street culture, you probably wouldn't have made it as far as you did, right? Because if you was affiliated with certain groups, you had a pass to walk wherever you wanted to walk. You didn't have to worry about getting jumped, getting robbed, getting killed, getting, great. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain things you didn't have to worry about because of street culture. When your family needed food or rent or clothes, they had work for you, right? If you was really in the streets, you know what I'm talking about. They had work for you to put in so that you can get the funds to get the food and get the clothes and have the shelter. Funds that the government won't give you, right? Because the government would rather spend their money on the military. And this is why I think it's hypocritical to talk about street culture. Because let's be honest, with all the violence and all that going on in the streets, let's keep it 100. And I hope this don't get me flagged, but if it do, whatever. Warfare ain't nothing but global gangbanging. You understand what I'm saying? Like, all the stuff we're seeing in the world right now ain't nothing but gangbanging. Think about it. They fighting over product, distribution, territory, flags. Like, come on. Come on, man. You got that flag up there, we bombing on you. That's gangbanging. You got that product, we need that product. Oh, you trying to up the price? How about we just take it? That's gangbanging. That is street culture, but it's acceptable when it's nation to nation, country to country. All of a sudden it's acceptable. But when it's block to block or city to city, now we're barbaric, right? Nah, we not. I will not allow the media and even affluent people to disrespect what my people had to do to survive. Now, with that being said, like I said, I don't want to promote street culture. I've been saying this for a long time. I don't know who this going to reach. But if you are a celebrity that is making multi-million dollars, whether in sports, in music, I don't care. By now, you should have a scholarship fund that everybody knows about. You should have some type of loan program to help small businesses. You should have adopted an HBCU that you're giving grants to. You should have adopted even a high school or two that you're helping with the uniforms and after-school programs. There's enough money. There's enough black people with money that we really don't need the government. We have each other. But as long as you want to spend your money on jewelry and on yachts and on, the strip club and all of that, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying if that's all your money's going to go towards and you're not going to help any of your own people that need the help, then you keep your mouth shut about street culture. You just don't even talk about it. Because you have the means and you're not doing anything with it. How do you really think it takes that much money? It really don't take, based off the money that we're spending. And I had my boy, I had the couple, the Wrights couple, Lorenzo and Sarah. They came up here talking about $2.1 trillion in spending. And even when that clip went out on TikTok, there was so much pushback about it, saying, but we don't have the capital. And we're spending $2.1 trillion. Would have been the 14th richest country based off of the GDP, right? That was already discussed. And our own people are still saying we don't have the money. I know why we're saying that, because we don't see that money. You hear $2.1 trillion and you're like, well, that ain't coming from me. I don't got it. That ain't my money. And you're right. There are enough of us that are doing very well that we can donate and support, build our schools, build our hospitals, build our grocery stores. And we're not building it to make a profit. We're building it to serve our community. That's what the goal should be. If you have an excessive amount of money and you're more concerned about upgrading your lifestyle than supporting the growth of your people, then don't talk about street culture. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you got to change your lifestyle. Just keep your mouth shut when it comes to what's going on in these streets. Because these brothers and sisters, they got to eat. They got to clothe themselves. They have to protect themselves. They need to have a sense of well-being. Like, how good is your quality of life if you feel, I'm talking about you personally, you feel like a nobody. You feel like you're the worst of the worst. You're going to do something to make yourself feel elevated. That's human nature. And so, yeah, if that means putting on a flag, repping my set, putting in some work so that people know my name, then that's what I'm going to do. We see it in prison culture, too. We all locked up. Everybody in prison, we all locked up. And yet, socially, they create a hierarchy within prison culture. Now, we want to debate the right or wrong. If you're in prison, it's survival, my G. Like, at that point, I'm trying to make it to the end of my time. And if I'm here for the rest of my life, I got to do what I got to do to make it. At least do something to live a long life. Street culture is the same way, just outside. You know what I mean? But it's the same way. The system has created parameters. I can remember certain high schools, the funding was so bad in comparison to other high schools. They couldn't afford to take the kids on field trips. Parents couldn't afford to pay for field trips. So they was restricted to just books. Like, and I'm talking before YouTube. I know I sound old now, before YouTube. Who could imagine, right? Yeah, there was life before YouTube, before Instagram, where you had to actually travel to see the world. I know now y'all could just Google some stuff and you know what the pyramids look like and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But even that, it still ain't like the same thing. I gotta go check it out. But we were restricted to magazines and books and encyclopedias. My mom still got one of the Britannica, the whole encyclopedia set. Like, somehow my mom was convinced that this was like, I guess she didn't know it would be outdated at some point. You know what I'm saying? This is how we got knowledge. If you are poor and you're living in the urban city, you didn't know what the world was like beyond your 5 blocks. 5 blocks. You literally had no idea. And you can see something on TV, but everything on TV is fake. You don't believe none of it. I know for me what changed my life, and shout out to the Boys and Girls Club. This is not an ad, but holla at your boy. They had, at the time, what was called the Keystone Club. That literally changed my life. We did fundraisers, and we took a trip to Cali. We landed in L.A., and I was seeing cars that I thought only celebrities could drive, and it was regular people. I said, I didn't know regular people could live like that. Then we went from L.A. to San Diego, and let me tell you, San Diego is beautiful. It is gorgeous. And I'm sitting there. That was my first time having a Belgian waffle, right? Look, right? My first time having a Belgian waffle with strawberries and whipped cream. I ain't know nothing about that. I was like, yo, this waffle thick. I ain't know nothing about it. And it was good. I had scrambled eggs. It must have been organic or something. That joint was busting. And I was like, wow. I didn't see not one celebrity, but I saw a lot of people. And I'm like, yo, everyday people live like this? And it opened up my eyes to a world that I didn't know. Now, did it get me out the streets? No, it didn't get me out the streets. Not immediately, but it planted a seed. You know what I'm saying? It let me know that maybe, just maybe, there is a better way to live that doesn't require me to be good at sports or to be good at music. Maybe there's some other avenues. At the very least, it opened me to go to college and say no. Matter of fact, that's why I majored in pharmacy, because my mom told me how much pharmacists made. I said, bet, that's my way. But it was these little exposures and opportunities that, if we look at our collective funding, it doesn't cost that much money. But if we don't have these celebrities, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I knew that we can organize well enough, I wouldn't support another sporting event. I wouldn't support another concert if I didn't know these players or artists were directly helping our people. Where I would only support you because I knew that my money that goes to you is being funneled back into the communities that need it. But, I mean, maybe one day we'll do a real boycott and stop saying, well, because it's black players, we're still supporting black people. No, that's not how this works. The streets need schools. We need good teachers. Look, let's talk about the teachers real quick. There's enough money in our community where if we were to start a fund, we could create the subsidies and pay the teachers what they're truly worth, whatever the difference is. The state gives them this much, and through this fund, we give them this much more as a stipend, as a thank you for being an effective teacher in our community, where we have metrics measuring their effectiveness as teachers, as an incentive for them to keep going, where these teachers that are high performing don't have to leave our neighborhoods, but we can pay for them. Like, these are things that we can do, y'all. It's not that difficult. And I don't want to say too much because I don't like putting a lot online, because then our enemy can hear what we're trying to do, and then they have the power of legislation behind them. They can try to stop some of these things. But y'all see what I'm talking about. Get creative. Y'all can hit me up if y'all about that business for real. My point is this, though. You shouldn't be snitching on people who are doing your community a solid, even if it's illegal. I am saying that. I stand 10 toes down on that. If it's reckless crime and you're a civilian, by all means, you should cooperate with the authorities. But if it is actions that are consequences of conditions that our people are living in that has nothing to do with us, is other systems imposing themselves on us. If there are certain reactions or consequences that come from that, I don't think you should work with the authorities. So let's go back to the drug dealing. I mentioned crack, right? Now, I don't know how many of you know this because you guys are young. The government put crack in our streets. We couldn't afford the cocaine, let alone to test the mixing of cocaine and other substances. Y'all not gonna tell, ain't nobody gonna say they learn how to cook crack from me, right? I ain't gonna give y'all, you know what I'm saying? But we could not do trial and error with cocaine and some other substances and then produce crack. Look, if we had enough money to buy cocaine, I promise you we was gonna sniff it. All right, we wasn't gonna waste no time playing games. It was the government that not only supplied the crack, but supplied the formula. This is common knowledge, but I think sometimes we forget. Because black people get blamed for everything. And the government knew, first off, the government wanted to keep us as a lower class citizen. I already said that part. But the government was monopolizing off of our desperation. And they gave us the crack. They gave us the guns. They supplied the recipe. They even supplied some of the network. And then they lock us up for free labor. Because slavery is only legal if it's through the penitentiary. So this whole system is about keeping black people down. And what I'm saying is, in order to prevent that system from being successful, as black people, we need to apply certain street rules. No snitching is one of them. Let me tell you another one that I love and I still live by, and I wish we all lived by that. No women and children. We do not attack women and children. That was a street rule. Now, if she was about that life, we had other women that was about that life and they handled each other. But as men, we never attacked women and children. Matter of fact, when I was in the streets, if they found out that you was beating on a woman, that was it for you. You was made an example of, because that's not what we do. We never attacked civilians. Those who are not a part of that life, our job was to protect our community. I'll tell you this story. And I can't give you details anyway, so it is what it is, right? But I was chilling at my man's house on my block. You know, all of us, we were just chilling. And this wasn't even the set. I mean, we was all street affiliated, you know what I mean? But this wasn't my set, let me put it out. I wasn't chilling with the gangsters. I was just chilling with my dudes on the block. But it was street dudes. And some of them were gangsters of different sets, whatever, right? Okay. My man's pulls up, and he was like, yo, my cousin just got robbed. We was like, what? He's like, yeah, my cousin just got robbed. Like, where? Like, yo, right down, da-da-da. He named the block. Like, nah, not that block. That's our hood. What are you talking about? So we made a phone call. Did y'all just catch a lick? They're like, yeah, man, we caught dudes slipping. Hey, nah, that's my man's cousin. He ain't from around here. Give him his stuff back. Oh, they were like, oh, my bad, G. Yeah, we ain't know. We just thought, our dude was slipping. And he gave him his stuff back. That's the streets that I grew up in. Where there was a code. That's a civilian. Man pulled up. It was like, nah, he ain't, We gave him his stuff. Well, now, I wasn't obviously involved. I'm just telling y'all the story, right? We knew who was likely to do it. We made the phone call. They gave them the stuff back, and everything was peace from that point. That's the streets I grew up in. Civilians, we didn't terrorize civilians, especially in our neighborhood. Now, I already know there's going to be a bunch of comments that talk about all the other stuff that happens in the street. By no means, once again, am I defending the street saying it's a perfect system. But what is? Just name one system that's perfect. We don't have perfect systems. The best we could do is tweak it as close to perfection as possible. And with black people in particular, we don't have the luxury of being left alone. So even when we do tweak it, let me be like, I hear so many people talk about the way we dress and the way we talk and how that makes us a target. I understand the sentiment, but let me just remind you, they was shooting us, killing us, raping us, robbing us when we was wearing suits and ties. Go back and look at those old footages from the 20s and the 30s. We was decked down, like we was dripped up, and they was still lynching us, okay? They was still kidnapping our kids. It's not about the clothes. Let's not sell that lie so that we can assimilate with white society. Let's tell the truth. The system sees black people as a threat and as a target, and they need a lower class to maintain their wealth. And if that's going to change, it is up to us to organize and say, we're going to bring the change. And that has to happen from a street level. As communities, we come together and we say, this is how we're going to move. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to snitch about this. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to terrorize these people. We're going to honor each other in this way. This is how we know that we really together. We have to do that. Or else everything stays the same. So while the streets has changed, and I know a lot of people are misguided, especially our youth, but where are they going to get the guidance from if none of us who lived that life is willing to talk to them and say there's a better way? That's our job. If we survive the streets, and that's why I do what I do. I got no problem. Look, when I was a youth pastor at a particular church that I won't mention right now because of the sake of this content, when I was a youth pastor there, one of the youth, he became Crip. He came home, cried, oh, you Crip? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I want to meet your OG. He's like, nah, Pastor, chill. I'm like, what you mean? Like, I'm just the pastor. I just want to talk to your OG real quick. He's like, nah, chill, Pastor. Nah, we ain't going to do it. I'm like, why not? I'm not scared of him. You think he's scared of me? Like, I just want to have a conversation. Now, why would I want to do that? Because he clearly has influence over the youth. Let me have influence over the OG. That's my thinking. Let me talk to the OG. What's the point right now? What are y'all trying to do? What's the goal? And if there's legitimate ways to get it done, will you be open to that? I want to have that conversation with the OG. Yes. Because if we're going to save ourselves, we have to do it on a street level. And if you're not willing to do that work, just keep your mouth shut. Because some things have to be done for our survival. I'm just keeping it 100. If certain things were to happen to my family, there's certain phone calls I would make before I call the cops. Because I know that the system don't care about my family, but I know the brothers that do. And we will do whatever we have to do to protect our families. Don't ever disrespect the streets. And that's all. That's it. I just want to get that off my chest. This is what I'm just get off my chest. Leave y'all comments in the comment section, questions, whatever y'all have. And I know the trolls are gonna pop up. I'll give y'all a little bit of attention, but not too much, because this is actually near and dear to my heart. And as always, your presence matters. And if nobody else tells you, I love you. Peace.